welcome to Screen Talk with yours truly, Nomfanelo. So, before I begin, I do want to let you know that if you'd like to support the channel, you could visit my Buy Me a Coffee link where you could buy me a coffee, or you could join any of the membership tiers if you want to know any exclusives that I am working on. Also, too, if you create your own videos out there, consider using Riverside, which I am using myself. So if you're interested, click on the link in the description. So I was going to consider making this video, at least a version of this video, after the Oscars ceremony. But I decided to make it now because I earlier today I watched a video YouTuber Dan Murrell made where he calls "If I Ran the Oscars," where essentially he presented like what he would do if he ran the Oscars in terms of additions and omissions, that sort of deal. So I'm not going to react to everything that he said because that will be a very long video. So I do want to react to some of the points that he made. So the first one that I want to talk about from his is where he talks about the international film category. So
time, and that would be to revise the international film rules. As it stands, each country submits one film as its designated nominee for Best International Film, and that is the only film that can be considered in that category from each country. Usually that system works, but sometimes we have a case like this year where France chose a movie other than Anatomy of a Fall to be their designated nominee for Best International Feature. Anatomy of a Fall is one of the most nominated films at the Academy Awards, and yet it's not nominated in that category. France's pick didn't even make the cut, and it just feels like an incomplete category because Anatomy of a Fall should be competing as one of the best international films of the year. I would lose.
yeah, so I do agree that with the international film category should be change in terms of the process because essentially they use this Eurovision style type rules where each country they submit their picks for the movies to be represented under the home country, and sometimes with the picks can be controversial because with some countries they'll tend to choose maybe their own personal picks as opposed to the one that'll be like the obvious front runner. And in this case, France, they chose The Taste of Things instead of Anatomy of a Fall, which many suspect is because of political reasons. So I do want to bring up here that a few months ago, I saw this article on IndieWire speaking on Anatomy of a Fall that the so Tom Quinn from Neon, he talks about the international film selection being a horribly broken process. So he talked about this during the New York Film Festival with IndieWire, where he says the idea that the Golden Globe somehow has a better process where you could truly put together the five best international films really makes no sense. He says, I think it's a horribly broken process, and this is the best version of it. But I also think it's absolutely completely silly that one film will represent one country. I have to believe that one film should be certified to participate in the overall selection in the international category. But it makes absolutely no sense. This is not Eurovision. It's not one song represents one country. I mean, I do agree with that because you see, like, as the years go by, like international films are making uh, are having more of a presence with the award season, and it's kind of ridiculous that only one film per country can be considered, as opposed to, you know, everyone with the American films, they don't have to deal with this process. So so I think, yeah, they should get rid of the Eurovision style rules and just allow, I don't know, whichever film from any country to be considered, and then just narrow it down to the five nominees. So if you want to take a look at this article, I'll link it in the description. So going back to the video. So let's go to here. He's going to talk about the nominees once I find that section. Well,
It's
he'll start.
actual progress and not just something to put in a press release. My next suggestion would bring more people into the fold on the nomination side, and that is to expand the field of nominees. More movies are being made now than ever before, and yet the individual achievement categories, director and the four acting categories, are still locked at 5 nominees. I would change these categories to basically function on a form of the way that Best Picture used to work. It worked for a while that Best Picture wasn't locked at 5 nominees or 10 nominees. It was locked at somewhere between 5 and 10 nominees. If you got a certain percentage of the vote, they basically set a threshold as far as the percentage of the vote that you got, then you would be in the nomination field.
So I disagree with this choice. I've seen a couple people, some YouTubers, talk about this, and for me, adding more nominees, like in terms of individual nominees, it just dilutes it even further, because you could look at examples like with the Grammys and the Golden Globes. While like it's nice, I guess, when you add more nominees, that at least more people are considered, but at the same time it just feels less special. And just because you increase the nominees does not guarantee that the people that you hope to be nominated will be nominated, because the Oscars, they tend to, live under their own structure and don't necessarily pay attention to what everybody else is nominating. Because look through their history, like there's always those few picks that the majority of other award shows have not considered. So I think, yeah, for the individuals, just stick to the five. And it just sucks that always someone is going to get snubbed. I know most notably this year, Greta Gerwig missed out on Best Director. I think I talked about that when I shared my thoughts on the Oscar nominations. So yeah, just adding more nominees is not going to guarantee that those particular snubs would have made the cut. So I'm going to move on where he talks about the stunts category.
Wasn't the category that was added to the Oscars. We are going to add a category for stunt performers. We have Oscars for sound, camera, visual effects, acting, production design, costumes, hair, makeup, now casting. Why is there still not a category for stunt actors? It is a crap.
Yeah, like I agree, because I think I even tweeted about this one time a few years ago. Like, where are where are the stunts category? Because with the people that do stunts, they essentially risk their lives doing those stunts and should be rewarded, and they tend to be overlooked the most compared to everyone else. So how I would structure it is, I would do stunt coordination. I would do stunt coordinator, where essentially it's awarded to the person that runs the stunts department, and then I will do stunt performance, Um, it could either be male and female, or just leave it as one category. And also, too, I would add best choreography, because I wouldn't just limit choreography to the fights, but also to the dance numbers as well, too. Because I do think with dance choreographers need to be recognized as well, too. Now, I do get that we don't see many dance heavy films or musical films every year, but I do think that choreographers in that field need to be recognized, whether it's prominent in the majority of the movie or in the one or two notable scenes from a movie. So this one where he talks about, I kind of like scratched my head on this one.
For changing. And that's the addition of something that I call the Legacy Award, which would be given to one specific film 10 years after its release. And what this is basically intended to do is not to diminish the movie that won Best Picture, but to acknowledge a movie that over the past decade has established itself as having a lasting legacy in film. So if you go
So I disagree with this notion, because you already have a version of this with the honorary Oscars, which I do believe they stream it on the Academy's YouTube channel. If not, they release it in parts. But they do like a version of this where they award the nominees. Now I don't know how that process works in terms of selecting the recipients, but yeah, they usually do that with the honorary Oscars. And by I don't know why he wants to award like the best picture, because in a way, even though he claims it's not diminishing the winners for best picture, at the same time it is, because it's kind of, it'll be seen as like a participation trophy, if that makes sense. So I prefer, like, if you're gonna do like a legacies, that, like I said, is usually done with the honorary Oscars, and it's better to award the individual or individuals as opposed to the picture itself. And here is the next part that I want to do, because from here he talks about the ceremony itself. Once I find. Okay.
which is to say that hosts are optional. I'm not saying that you never have a host. If you can get Hugh Jackman, get Hugh Jackman. But a host should be somebody who carries the entire show, not somebody who comes out and does an opening monologue and then has to invent bits in order to stay relevant for the rest of the night and justify why they're getting a paycheck to host the Oscars. If you want somebody to come out and do a great monologue, get a great comedian to come out and do an opening monologue, right? A 10-minute set, and then you don't see them for the rest of the night. You still have.
So I talked about this previously when I was reacting to the Golden Globes with that fiasco with that host. But I disagree here that you don't need a host, because you do need, a host or someone that's going to keep the energy. I do get that having no host will move things quicker, but at the same time, it just makes for a boring ceremony, particularly for the people watching at home. Now, in terms of the bids, that could be like debatable, but I do think that for the bids, like it should not carry for the rest of the show, because we do need more time, like for the people's speeches, and instead of rushing them along. So this next part, um, in a way, pissed me off with this one. So here is what he says here.
But I would move the awards for shorts off of the Academy Awards telecast. And that's not to say that the artists behind the short films are not filmmakers. They are, just as much as the artists that are making feature films are. But I think that it makes sense to have the Academy Awards telecast be the one that celebrates feature filmmaking every year. Now, I'm absolutely not saying that the Academy should stop giving out awards to the filmmakers behind short films. That can happen at any number of honorary awards things that happen before every Oscar telecast. And you should recognize the winners on the telecast. Maybe even bring the winners out to present an award so they get that moment in the spotlight. They should get tickets to the Oscars if they win the Academy Award for Best Short Film. I'm not saying exclude them from the party entirely, but I just don't know where it fits in my vision of where the Oscar
So, yeah, I disagree with this one because didn't we have this conversation back, was it for the 2022 Oscars when they decided to remove a few of the technical categories and look how that turned out? So, because like certain categories may not be recognized to the general public does not mean like it should be removed and all that stuff. Because and also too, because as a filmmaker myself, I do make short films. Like, why should the shorts category be excluded from the telecast? Because that just does not make sense to me. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on that one. And this one too kind of just scratched my head. I'll just continue.
telecast should be. Next up, when it comes to winners, as the Academy, I would remind them that speeches are about feelings, not names. It should be underscored to all winners that while, yes, this is a moment of great personal achievement for you, the Oscar telecast is meant for the enjoyment of the people that are at home watching. And if nobody's watching, then why even have the telecast at all? So while I'm sure it's tempting to go up there and recite the names of everybody on your payroll, I also think that what people want to hear is what this moment means to you. Speak from the heart. If you
Okay, so hardly disagree here. So who are you to say what people can and cannot say for speeches? So whoever wins, like they could say whatever they want if they want to speak from the heart, as you say, or if they want to, shout out the people they want to. Like that's up to them because really the speeches are more for them as opposed to the people watching at home, unless if it's something specific. So I disagree about changing, the speeches, making it more about emotions. If that's what he's trying to say, then just reading off the people, they want to thank. So plus also to telling them what to do with the speeches is disrespectful in my opinion. So that's pretty much all I want to react from this video. So I would like to know, what do you guys think about all of this? So as I said, parts of that video I was like, okay, and then there's other parts where I is questionable essentially. So let me know in the comments section. And also too, are there any stuff you would want to change with the Oscars? Let me know in the comment section. So you could look for my socials in the description, along with my Buy Me a Coffee link and Riverside affiliate link. And I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.